season, sleeper fantasy play, your best alternative line, whatever you have, text the round robin 757 354 5517.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, take us past our spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is the Deep End Broadcasting Network.
You are tuned in to the Round Robin with Stephen Murray on Deep End Broadcasting.
Feel like we're getting more and more views out there on our little view trigger, so we appreciate that. Hopefully catching some steam wherever you are listening around the world. Right now we are from the Chicks Beach Studios in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Speaking of steam, a nice warm 87 degrees outside. And that agua tastes very refreshing on this hot, long day of work. This is the Round Robin. I am Stephen Murray. Thank you for tuning in. If you followed the baseball picks yesterday and our thoughts on that, then we were pretty much almost close. I think we had a couple good ones, a couple bad ones, but I think we were right in the sense where we said you want to be buyer beware with the baseball right now, just with what you're going to get with some of these teams that are maybe not fully full heart into it here with just 17 or 18 games left to play. And some of the teams that have to have it not performing well, a la the Astros. Astros doing a terrible job trying to close things out in the AL West, in which nobody seems to want to win that. So we'll go over some more baseball in terms of that. We'll see what we can figure out here on a baseball slate here in the next segment. But we want to start with football, of course, as we are now on the eve of another NFL game. And here you are, you just kind of let down on a Monday night. Tuesday goes by. Next thing you know, you do Wednesday. And, oh, wait, there's another football game on already. And we have the Vikings and the Eagles. Let's talk about Survivor Pool first, because I think the Eagles could be a player in that this week. Now, you can go a few different options here. Am I kind of getting off my strategy? Somewhat. I have 5 of 6 survivors left. Seattle, no thanks to them, and Washington survives me 5. So we'll move on. And where do we go from here? All right, so the first matchup is Philly and Minnesota, a complete house of horrors for the Vikings. They can't win there. They get spanked there. But you got to also remember, too, that Philly is coming in with the 2 new coordinators. Both of their guys have moved on to their head coaching jobs in Indianapolis and down in Arizona. All right, so the Eagles, could there be a little bit of a lingering effect from that? We want to say no, but look at everything that's happened with Josh Allen and the Bills ever since Dayball has gone to the Giants, right? I mean, They have completely regressed. And you wonder if perhaps Philly can somewhat suffer that same type of fate. I only say that because what I perceive to be an undermanned New England team definitely was in there and definitely had the chance to win. I mean, it was almost a shock to New England fans. They were almost praising their quarterback in the loss, to be honest. But Minnesota is a team that has not done well in Philadelphia at all. So does that make Philadelphia a player in Survivor? I think that it does. Baltimore is at Cincinnati. You want to say no, but there's better plays on the board, but I think you can actually make a case for Cincinnati here. But we'll say no just because it's the divisional matchup, and Baltimore for sure can win this. Here's a sneaky game that kind of comes up for Survivor, and you could use this team now. And I'll tell you what, if you have expired Washington and Tampa Bay, and you've survived until week 3, that has a bunch of good teams in your pocket for down the road. Now, it's a tough strategy. You want to pick the one that's going to win and get you by, right? But what if some of these other games have major upsets? And if you can get this one sneaky play in, then maybe you can really just about win Survivor right now, or at least cut it down to a very slim margin anyway. So the team that's kind of sneaky to me in terms of Survivor are Tampa Bay. Chicago, I don't know. Here's the one thing too. We have a lot of humidity in central Florida this weekend. It's going to be in the 90s. It's going to be muggy. All right. And you can be absolutely certain that when it comes Sunday, that the Bears are going to be playing in those dark jerseys, and they're going to be feeling the effects of the humidity and the sun a lot more than Tampa Bay will. I can guarantee you that they'll be wearing the black jerseys. The other wild card factor at hand is that South Florida has a home game on Saturday. So maybe that grass field, which it is grass, unlike the turf of the Meadowlands that gobbled up Aaron Rodgers' knee, but the grass in Tampa Bay could kind of get a little beaten up in that Saturday, especially if it's going to be raining on Saturday, which it's supposed to be doing. So you could have a football game ahead of another NFL game with bad footing, a team that likes to try to run it, do some smoke and mirrors. And the other wild card factor you have in this is Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles is a defensive coach. Tampa Bay does have some good defense. They held Minnesota in check. Justin Jefferson got his, but he's going to get his against any team. Let's be honest with that. But Tampa Bay, with that defensive-minded coach, the one-trick pony of the Chicago Bears may be a little overwhelmed here, especially in the heat. All right, so 1 o'clock kickoff for that on Sunday. So that makes Tampa Bay, I think, a legitimate Survivor candidate. Green Bay and Atlanta will pass on that. Indianapolis, Houston, no. Kansas City and Jacksonville, no. Chargers and Tennessee, no. Vegas and Buffalo. Now, Buffalo is going to get a lot of traction here in Survivor this week. They're not going to get it by me. I've learned my lesson on these guys. Josh Allen continuously, again, just does stupid stuff, and I need to see him stop doing it. Where on the opposite end of things, Garoppolo actually, if he stays healthy, does smart things. Maybe not the best arm, and some of you might be laughing about that, Jimmy Garoppolo, but he's just not really as bad as people kind of paint him out to be. And he is serviceable, and they did win the game in Denver. So they do have good road momentum. I mean, they did win a Mile High. Buffalo is another kind of wild place to play on the road for sure. But have teams coming into Buffalo and performed well? Absolutely in the past. So I'm not going to put that beyond Vegas. It is earlier in the season too. So I'm not going to put it beyond Vegas to stay close in that game. And Buffalo, I need to see you play better before I can call you a dominant team. So we will lay off of you in Survivor this week. Seattle and Detroit, I think you can make a case for Detroit just because of the trench game. But again, I think you just have better plays on the board at this point. I rather trust Philadelphia over Minnesota than Detroit over Seattle. That just makes more common sense to me at the end of the day. The other one is the Giants. Oh, Giants, we had you mapped out here. We had you mapped out so we can use you, expire you, and again, we will be done with another bad team. You're at Arizona, who put up a really, really nice fight last week at Washington. Now, the Giants, you only scored 0 points. All right. And you did drive the ball a little bit until you kind of bungled it away there. But if we get a good effort at home from Arizona and the Giants are slipping just again, that becomes a scary, scary game real fast in terms of Survivor. The other thing is the other two teams are both home teams, and this is an away team. So I think that matters with Survivor, some for sure. It would be nice to expire the Giants, and I will probably use them on one of my plays. But where I kind of had more trust in them before, I don't have that trust in them now at all. We have San Fran and the Rams. The Rams played sneakily good last week. And the other thing is the San Fran will have other chances. They'll get the Rams at home, in which I don't know if that matters. SoFi Stadium will turn into a 49ers fan fest for sure. But they will have Arizona twice as well. They'll get Seattle at home, and I think they have one or two other winnable games for sure. So you can hold on to San Fran and I think put them in the bank. Now, the Cowboys are going to get a lot of action over the Jets now because of the Zach Wilson scenario and Rodgers. The Cowboys are going to get some traction as well. The thing is and we're going to do this next, is I want to go through the teams who have a win under their belt and look at their next few games. I want to see who can get a little bit of momentum here to try to go to a 4 or 5-0 start. See if we can identify a team that's kind of capable of doing that and see if we can find one to ride here coming up. But Dallas at home, yes. And they had a great victory over the Giants, but did we see all that from their offense still? And the Jets really, really do have a good defense. And we kind of make fun of the Jets for the Aaron Rodgers dealio, and not him specifically, but the fact that they're cursed. Things like this happen to them all the time. There's a snake bit franchise, you could say, I guess. But it is sports, and crazy things do happen. And if you do remember that Ravens team with Trent Dilfer as quarterback, they managed to win a Super Bowl too. So really all you need Zach Wilson to do is be Trent Dilfer. And there's a chance if that defense is as good as we can say. Denver and Washington, I think you might even get 1 or 2 picks on Denver here, but we'll pass on that for sure. Miami, New England, no. New Orleans, Carolina, no. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, no. Now, I was kind of shocked to see picks spread out all over the place on some of these, the 2 different Survivor pools that I'm in. There were definitely some picks. I'm like, wow, you took a chance on this team already. So I'm not sure if these are people who don't know what they're doing or not. But it seems like there are more easy ones to take a shot at. And what do I know? I thought Seattle was easy, and that was a loss. But this week, if you want to move on, then I think you have a few angles here for sure. Okay, so the Survivor picks, as I see them, all capable candidates. Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, the Giants, Dallas, and I think even Denver. So you figure 6 teams will dominate the picks. If I had to put a percentage on it, I would say something like 5 to 10% for Denver. I would say 30% on Dallas, maybe even. I think you'll get a smaller percentage on the Giants now because of how they performed last week. I don't think you'll get anything on Tampa. So that's why I say that's the sneaky one. And then Philadelphia and Buffalo will chop up the rest of that. I will say whatever's left here. I'm like 40% or something like that. Yeah. So I think even more than that, 55, 60%. So those three teams getting about 30%, I would say. 30% for Buffalo, Philly, Dallas. Now, if you have a scenario where the Jets win, the Raiders win, and the Vikings win, then you're talking about survivor pool disaster here in week 2. Can those three teams win? I think they can. I'm going to I want to put one on Philly, but man, that is just scaring me a little bit for some reason. I just think it has to do with the coordinators, and I've seen that act play out with Buffalo and Dayball. Now, I might be just erring on a side of caution and being overreactive because I really do think Philly will beat Minnesota. Minnesota is their own worst enemy at times here, many a times. But I just think there's better plays on the board. I like the Tampa angle. I really, really do. And I think I'm going to try to stick with the Giants as well. And if we can get upsets in all these other games, then I'm going to find myself in a nice little spot here down the road. Is it worth it to throw one pick on Philly? Probably is. I've actually had Dallas selected, and I've deselected them. Denver, I can't handle at all. So we'll just stick with that. All right, so interesting survivor stuff for this week, and we'll look to move on to week 3. Now, the other thing I wanted to do is this. Let's look at the teams with their schedules, and we do have baseball underway, so let's see what we have with that. Let me give you some scores on what is somewhat of a busy Wednesday afternoon, a busier evening. Cubs bottom 4, up 3-0. Guardians up 4-1 over the Giants in the top of the second. 0-0 with the Angels and the Mariners, bottom 1. Final. Tampa holds off to beat Minnesota 5-4. So the Rays will try to gain ground on the Orioles here, and we'll go through the rest of the slate after the break. All right, so the schedule's coming up for NFL teams. Let's see here. All right, teams that are 1-0, and that would be Philadelphia. So we'll start with them. Their schedule looks like this. Home against Minnesota, at Tampa, versus Washington, at the Rams, at the Jets, versus Miami. Okay, so I see a situation in which Philadelphia can get hot here. And they'll play Tampa on a Monday night as well. So I think I want to see it one more game. But if they do, then I think they can ring out some wins here in a row. With Tampa, Washington, the Rams, Jets all coming up, you could see the Eagles start to a 6-0 start. All right, so there'll be heavy favorites in all those games. So it's not like we're going to be sneaking up on anybody. So maybe not the best team to use exactly. All right, better team here, Green Bay and Atlanta. So let's look up Green Bay first. Their next 4 games: Atlanta, New Orleans, at Atlanta, home against New Orleans, versus Detroit, at Vegas, at Denver. Now, this is a team that can get some momentum, and you're going to get some decent lines on them too. All right, so I would put Green Bay as a decent little candidate here. In fact, they have Minnesota, the Rams. The deeper I go on their schedule, the more I like this as an over team for Green Bay. If they can just put out 38 points like they did last week in most of these games, and they're going to be tough to deal with. I'm going to take them this week on Atlanta, and I think Green Bay is going to be a little bit of a ride-on team here. They'll play a Thursday night game against Detroit. That will be at Lambeau Field as well. So a little bit of a revenge spot for them here late in September. Might use the Packers as a play-on team. Okay, Atlanta. I think they're going to have a hard time with Green Bay. We just talked about them. And then they're at Detroit versus Jacksonville versus Houston versus Washington, at Tampa, at Tennessee versus Minnesota. They could rack up some wins in there, but Jacksonville is going to kind of put them at a stop, and Detroit, and I even think Green Bay, but they could win that game with Green Bay for sure. And if they do, I think they go to 2-2 because I don't think they'll beat Detroit or Jacksonville. So the Falcons will stay away from them as far as momentum goes. All right, let's get back to the regular season. Baltimore and Cincinnati. Cincinnati 0-1. We won't look at them. Baltimore, just with the tough game at Cincinnati, kind of throws these guys out of the equation here. Now, they're going to be getting a good point spread. You'll be catching points here. And then they are versus Indianapolis, at Cleveland, at Pittsburgh, versus Tennessee, versus Detroit. Cleveland's going to be hard, and so is Pittsburgh. So, I mean, they'll probably split one in there, but I'll expect them to beat Indianapolis. They just look more like a 500 team to me right now than they do a team that can go on some kind of early run. Right now, it's just Green Bay. Looks like the one team that can kind of make a run here. All right, Detroit, they play Seattle. So can they go to 2-0 for sure? I think so. They do have the better trenches than Seattle. And then they have Atlanta at Green Bay, which is going to be tougher than it sounds, versus Carolina, at Tampa, at Baltimore. They could win a lot of these games still. They really, really could. So Detroit looks like they might be a play-on team as well. Again, what kind of number are you going to get with them? They're already laying a decent number this week against Seattle. So at Green Bay, they'll be about an even game. Versus Carolina, they'll be heavily favored. At Tampa, they'll be a favored. At Baltimore will likely be a slight favorite. It looks like Detroit has some games they can win a lot here coming up. So, parlay some of these to the money line too. Detroit's Green Bay money line here the next few weeks isn't the worst idea, to be honest. And they play each other. You just take that one off. But besides that, I think that's a fair bet for most of these. Let's see here. Again, if you just parlay the money line, no point spread, win straight up, and hit the Green Bay Detroit combo. Let's see. Next game. Tennessee lost. Chargers lost. We'll pass them. Tampa Bay. Let's look at their schedule because they got the Bears. And we've already mentioned them a couple times. I think they have the Eagles coming up. Right. That'll be the week 3 game. Yep. And then at New Orleans versus Detroit versus Atlanta. Their schedule gets harder. It really, really does. Can they steal a couple games there? Not going to be the easiest thing. But I did like what I saw in Minnesota, at least defensively for the most part. And I think they'll be good enough to beat the Bears for sure this week. Is there any other chance to use Tampa on a survivor pool? Let's look at that while we're doing this. Click forward. Yes. Okay, so survivor pool. Tampa they are at Houston. They are at the Colts. Carolina coming up. You're just not going to use them if you don't use them this week, to be honest. So that's all the more reason to maybe take a shot on Tampa now, is I don't know when else you will kind of use them. But the Giants are in that boat as well, to be honest. They have a very, very hard schedule. Their only layup game is in Arizona. So maybe that's what we do. We split the votes with them, being the Giants and Tampa. As far as survivor goes, okay. Kansas City, they lost the game. Jacksonville won a game. Can Jacksonville go on a little roll here? Let's see. Can we add them to our straight money line parlay At this point, you can round robin these two and still come out with a profit probably. Versus Kansas City is a hard game, but let's see where Kelsey's at. And again, no Eric Bieniemy. So what does that mean now for Kansas City? Jacksonville next has Houston, Atlanta. They do have Buffalo. These are neutral site games in the UK. So they're staying over there too for a week. They're going to be accustomed to that. That's going to be an edge over Buffalo for sure. They got the Colts after that. They have the Saints. If they can get by this game, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you could definitely see Jacksonville maybe go to like a 6-0. Now, they do get the 49ers after their bye week, which will be a great 1 o'clock game on Fox there in early November, a couple weeks right before Thanksgiving. But winnable schedule with Bill coming up for sure. They need to get by the Chiefs. I think they will. I kind of like them at home this week against Kansas City. We'll get more into that as we go through the week and even more so on Sunday. It's hard to really pick games this early. I feel like you kind of get a better feel as you kind of look at things through the week. It's always kind of good to go on the first gut instinct too, but things do happen and change in that time period. So we want to kind of be smart about how we execute our approach here, especially in week 2. Indianapolis and Houston, both losers. We'll pass that. All right, 49ers and the Rams. I'll tell you right now, the Rams do not have a schedule in which it looks like if they do go undefeated through 6 games, it'll be impressive. Okay, at the Rams versus Giants versus Cardinals versus Cowboys. This is the 49ers. At Cleveland, at Minnesota versus Cincy, and then a bye. Games get harder, but I could see this team, even with these hard games, beating all of those opponents. So I think you can throw a San Fran in your money lines for sure. All right, so San Fran, Green Bay, and Detroit all look like they can go on some kind of run here coming up. The Rams, we're going to say no. And I'll go through their schedule real quick to clarify why. As they have San Fran at Bengals, at Indy, home against Philly, versus Arizona, versus Pittsburgh, at Dallas, at Green Bay. So tougher road to hoe for the Rams to try to find some kind of momentum to get on a little bit of a run here. And we're just looking to see who wins in September more than anything. But it looks like San Fran, Green Bay, and Detroit all will kind of vie for that, at least schedule-wise. Now, look, none of this means anything, to be honest. But I'm just saying, get a win or two, and then you have opponents you can beat. You feel the momentum, feel a little unstoppable. I think that can carry yourself a long way early. The problem is you'll burn out maybe by the season. Better get hot later than early, right? And as we go through the season, we'll try to identify where some teams can start to get some hot streaks. Giants and Cardinals both with losses. Jets and Cowboys both with wins. Jets schedule coming up. Let's just say they beat Dallas. What do they have after that? Versus New England, versus Kansas City, at Denver, versus Philadelphia, at the Giants, versus the Chargers, at Vegas. They got to go. Yeah. They do have the bye week 7. You got to figure there's some losses in there for the Jets unless they really do make some magic happen. Dallas. All right, so if they beat the Jets, they have at Arizona versus New England, at San Fran, at the Chargers versus the Rams, at the Eagles versus the Giants. So some winnable games, and then the one tough one with San Fran, of course, and then you got the Eagles game, which is in Philly. But, this has the makings of the Cowboys going to a 6-2 start. anyway. Is that like an undefeated run? Maybe. I mean, if they could beat the 49ers, then and they were there in the championship game, and they just kind of fell apart in the second half. So that game will say the next time one of those teams lose. So if Dallas and the 49ers playing each other here in week 4, the winner of that game might not lose for a while. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. What else? Denver lost. Washington won. Let's look at Washington and Miami. The Saints and Cleveland. I think Washington can actually beat Denver here at Denver. Then they have Buffalo at home. At Philly. Hard game versus the Bears. At Atlanta. At the Giants. They can win some of these games. If they play better, Sam Howell, don't be bad like you were against Arizona. We'll kind of give you a week 1 pass here, but you're going to have to earn your stripes a little bit here at Denver. Come out throwing that ball around a little bit more against what's going to be a tough Bronco defense for sure. So Commanders a lot to prove on the road. Can't take them for any kind of super run. Miami. Can Miami make a run? That's going to be a good question because I think they might. Let's see. At New England, yes. Win. Versus Denver, yes. At Buffalo, they can win that game. Versus the Giants, versus Carolina, yes. Yes, yes. At Philly, that's going to be an interesting game Sunday night, mid-October. Then New England again, then Kansas City at home. The Dolphins can put some W's up here. So look for them to go on some sort of a run. Obviously, the Buffalo game week 3 is tough, but if Buffalo plays like they did Monday and Miami plays like they did Sunday, I'm giving the edge to Miami there for sure. All right, Carolina. Let's see. Carolina. No, we don't want Carolina. They lost. We want the Saints. I know this is thrilling as I click through all these teams predicting their week 4 wins. Okay, at the Saints at Carolina, yeah, they can win that. At Green Bay, I would say they can, yeah, but I like Green Bay better already. Versus Tampa Bay, yes. At New England, yes. At Houston, yes. Jacksonville at home. You could see the Saints get on some kind of little tear here, especially if they can beat Green Bay. That's going to be the key game from them in that stretch. And then Sunday also at New England won't be the easiest thing either. But you can see the Saints get off to a nice little start. The Green Bay game is going to be huge. I would like them better if they played Green Bay later and they played like Minnesota before that. Then I'd say the Saints could definitely go off to some sort of 6-0 start. Cleveland. But we'll throw them on the list just to be safe. Cleveland, and we'll review that list after this. At Pittsburgh versus Tennessee versus Baltimore versus San Fran. At Indy, at Seattle versus Arizona. See, that schedule gets hard, I think, for Cleveland, kind of. So we'll throw them out of the loop on making some sort of significant undefeated run. But here are the teams with a chance. And now a couple of them play each other, so they're not going to obviously go undefeated in the span, but maybe you just kind of lay off here. And I think money line bets is what I'm trying to say. I mean, if they look like wins, then you want to maybe parlay these guys all together money line style. So when we get to the main schedule, let me get back to that, wherever it is. Commanders. Okay. Teams that can go on a run. All right. Teams that can make a little run here, looking at their schedule. Green Bay. Detroit. Jacksonville, maybe, for sure. They can go on a run. So Jacksonville's on that list. Green Bay, Detroit, the 49ers, the Cowboys, The Jets, if they can beat the Cowboys, maybe, but their schedule is just too hard, I guess. So we'll leave the Jets off. Miami and the Saints. So those are the teams to look out for here in September. We'll put a star by these guys: New Orleans, Miami, Dallas, San Fran, Jacksonville, Green Bay, and Detroit. We'll see how these teams end up at the end of September. It'll be interesting to see. We'll review that here in a couple of weeks. Okay, let's go ahead and take our one break. Let me just get a sip of water, get out of the seat for a minute, and then what we will also do is talk. Ventro with a question. Ventro, wide receiver 1, Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton. According to my man, Ant-Man, he says watch out for him, Ventro. So we appreciate your question on that. Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, who is number 1? We will say Cortland Sutton at the moment. Appreciate the line, Ventro. Baseball right after this. Dependable Solutions can provide all voice-over services for your advanced audio production needs. Think of us as an inexpensive option, no matter what the size of the project is. From one-word cameos to full-script productions, contact Dependable Solutions at 757-354-5517.
Know your gambling limits. Don't ever bet what you can't cover. Wagering on sports is only fun when you do it the right way. Not every bet will win. When you get on a bad run, know it and avoid trouble. Know your gambling limits.
Family-owned and operated, CP Shuckers Cafe and Raw Bar specializes in delicious cuisine, refreshing drinks, and a laid-back atmosphere. We opened our doors in 1995 and have enjoyed being a place to either relax or celebrate ever since. Whether you are in the mood to indulge in a great meal with your friends and family or watch the game, we promise that our inventive menu, attentive service, and skilled bartenders will have you truly satisfied. Both of our locations have spacious outdoor patios for enjoying the breeze and catching a little sun. Our friendly staff at CP Shuckers will make your next dining experience a pleasant one by delivering personal care. We are open until 2 a.m. Full menu will be served until 10 p.m. and late night limited menu until 1 a.m. For larger parties, please give the location of choice a call. Pacific Avenue, 757-425-8676 or Shore Drive, 757-412-2929. More information at cpshuckers.com. Thank you for your continued support and have a shucking good time.
Control your alcohol. Don't fight. Don't drink and drive. Your one punch could kill someone. It happens. If you're behind the wheel, you may think you are fine, but then the other driver is under the influence of texting, and then you are done. Control your alcohol.
Updated baseball scores. This is hopefully what sets the show apart from some of the others, as day 3 of Aaron Rodgers' ankle Achilles dominates the headlines everywhere. Still, 5-3 Rockies, top of the 6th. End of the 3rd, Guardians 5, Giants 1. The Angels up 1-0 over the Mariners. I was thinking to myself, should I take the Mariners today? No, I did not. And they were down 1-0, bottom of the 3rd. And 5-4, the Rays over the Twins. All right, let's pull up the lines. Get everything fresh. We'll go by the lines first. And then I'll click on my little game forecast, and we'll see what we can come up with. Again, if you didn't join us yesterday, again, the moral of the story here is just avoid the mediocre versus mediocre teams that really have nothing to play for at this point. Avoid, pick on the bad teams, especially if you have good teams that have to have it. Although the Astros aren't proving that. Although we said don't trust any of those 3 in that division, the Rangers, Astros, and the Mariners. They've all proven to be untrustworthy completely. So we'll stay away from them altogether as well. All right, we'll give the Pirates and Nationals a look here. -144 over under 9.5. And again, this game just falls in that. Why would I do this? 73 degrees and sunny in Pittsburgh, PNC Park, my favorite park. Jackson Rutledge will get his major league debut here for the Nats. Colin Selby, 2-1, 8.64 ERA for him, and just 16.2 innings pitched. So I guess lean with the over, right? Is that what we're going to do here? No at-bats for either lineup against either of these pitchers. The over-under, again, in this game is 9.5. I mean, you can't trust the Pirates offense to do anything. They do have some games they explode, but they are very far and few in between. The Nats as well, but they've just been 2 bad teams. I don't know. I do like both the pitchers, very inexperienced angle, I guess. So maybe if you wanted to throw a little nugget on the over here, just offenses that don't care against young buck pitchers, then by all means, I guess. Orioles minus 188, over under 9.5. This is Gibson against Rahm. Kyle Gibson has not been the best lately at all. Let's see here. We get into this game. So what can we find here? Should be nice skies in Baltimore tonight. I don't have a forecast. Yes, 80, sunny and 80. Okay, let's see. Gorman's on the injured list for the Cardinals, so that's worthy to note. Relative success against Kyle Gibson for the couple of batters who have faced him for the Cards. No one has faced the pitcher for the Cardinals, Drew Rahm, the lefty. 7.79 ERA for him. Kyle Gibson, 14-8, 5.12 ERA after having some tough starts recently. He does have 168.2 innings pitched, so he's been out there as a workhorse, 178 innings, 178 hits. So maybe that's it. He might be having a little bit of a dead arm scenario, but Gibson doesn't strike you out either. Neither does Rahm. So I would expect some runs here, and hopefully the Orioles can score more than the Cardinals. But I think the over, just straight over, is going to be your best play. And at 9.5, if you want to stretch this up to 12.5, at 13 on some sort of an alt line, I think you can. So best bet here is the total over for the Cardinals and Orioles, plus 260 for 12.5, plus 360 for 13.5. If you think this can be that super high scoring 8-7 game, which they've had one of those already, 16 runs scored Monday night. Orioles bats quiet last night against Wainwright, so that was a little bit of a surprise, but that's what happens in baseball. Spencer Strider back on the mound for the Braves against Sanchez for the Phillies, minus 166 for Strider, over under 9, and he's had a little bit of issues lately. He's that, where he's a Cy Young favorite before, he's now like 100-1 to win it, so that's kind of crazy to say. But 78 degrees and sunny in Philadelphia. Strider is 16-5, 3.83 ERA, 162 innings for him, just 125 hits, 250 strikeouts. But he just has some bad innings. He really does. Christopher Sanchez, 3.26 ERA, 2-3 for him. The bats have been hot in this series. All these games have gone over the total. So why it doesn't matter who the pitcher is. So why would you think any different here, I guess? Over under is 9. So if you want to climb the ladder on that again, then you might as well. If you've been betting alt overs too, I think the least amount of scored one day was 12. So 11.5 has gotten you there all 3 times at a good plus number if that's what you've been doing. All right. Case in point here, Reds and Tigers. Both teams they had a back and forth game last night too. So you can't really trust what will happen tonight. Both teams fighting for their lives to stay alive. The sands of the hourglass running out fast for both the Tigers and the Reds. But at Comerica Park tonight, 71 degrees. So they will play baseball. The Reds are 39-32 on the road. Wow. Worse at home. Let's see. Phillips, 9.64 ERA for him, the Reds pitcher, Connor Phillips. Just 4.2 innings pitched. Eduardo Rodriguez, 3.18 ERA for him. 131.1 innings pitched. 110 hits. No, the batters have no career lineup against these guys, obviously. Let's see. Phillips, though, bad ERA. I don't know. Stay away. I guess another over if that's what you want to do. The Detroit pitcher's been decent, so I guess you can't say that. We'll run for the hills on that game. Texas and Toronto. Scherzer injury out for the season, not season, out for the regular season with a mild bicep tear or whatever. So the Rangers plus 108, the Blue Jays minus 126. Over under is 8. Kikuchi's been okay. Montgomery, yeah, he's been okay. I don't know. I just don't trust either one of these teams right now. He can't play on Texas. Toronto is hit or miss for sure. 9-5 for Kikuchi, 3.57 ERA. Montgomery's 8-11, 3.62 ERA for him. I think it's a stay away. Sounds like a little bit of a pitcher's duel. So we'll avoid Rangers and Blue Jays. It just kind of gives me a bad taste in my mouth altogether, to be honest. 69 degrees and cloudy skies in Fenway Park for the Yankees and the Red Sox. Let's see, line here. Who's the favorite in this game? The Red Sox with Houck, the favorite, minus 136, over under 9.5 against Schmidt, who's been inconsistent himself, but not the worst. 9-8 for him, 4.54 ERA. Houck, 4-9, 5.28 ERA. Quite frankly, these offenses turn it on and turn it off at any given moment. So I think this is just generally going to be another pass here. Again, two teams kind of meandering with nothing else left to really to prove on the season. Outside shots for wild cards. So I think just better plays on the board overall. Again, here are the Astros and the Athletics. 278 favorites for the Astros, over under at 9. Again, the A's have owned Houston here in the series, and Blackburn's not the worst pitcher either. 3.88 ERA for him. Hunter Brown, the pitcher for the Astros. So the A's with some momentum, getting a nice money line. I don't know. Do you take a reverse money line on Oakland? Why not? The Astros have gone in the tank. Let's see what that pays. Just because this is what it's going to be. This is what was going to be paying the last few nights if you've been doing this. The A's, if you've been taking them to win by 4 runs or whatever, then plus 900 to win by 4 runs tonight are the Oakland A's. Eek. Houston just disappointing again. Everyone in the AL West can't decide if they want to hold on to the top spot. So Rangers, Mariners, Astros, all trying to flip-flop it around. Speaking of, the Mariners have tied the game 1-1 end of the third, hosting the Angels. Bottom fourth now, Guardians 5, Giants 1. Rockies 5-3 now over the Cubs as we go to the top of the 7th. All right, back to my little things here. Okay, who do we have left on the slate? We're getting there. Brewers and Marlins. Okay, Royals and White Sox has been, again, just run for the hills there. The Brewers and the Marlins. Let's look at this. The Brewers need it. They did lose last night to the Marlins. Garrett and Trevor McGill, the pitcher for the Brewers. So 3.38 ERA for him, 3.82 for Braxton Garrett, the lefty. Any career at-bats against these guys? Minimal at-bats against Garrett for the Brewers, and just a couple of at-bats for the Marlin hitters against the McGill. So really nothing to go by there. Both guys' ERA are sub 4. 8-6 for Garrett, 1-0 for McGill, just 29.1 innings pitched for him. Garrett's had 143 innings pitched, 142 hits, 140 Ks. So about a strikeout an inning, just 25 walks, and he gives up 1 home run every 7 innings. Not the worst. Not the worst. So Braxton Garrett, a nice little season. It just looks like a tough game. When I saw these games all at the beginning of the week, I didn't see anything that really stuck out for me to try to pick on. The Phillies Braves over looks like an obvious. The Orioles Cardinals one looks like kind of an obvious. So we'll stick with those two. The A's. Oh my God. Okay, another over team. How about this? We talked about the Padres and Dodgers game last night, going over there, which it did. And the Padres have been a straight over team. 76 degrees for them. And I think Blake Snell is on the mound. So we might get a low number here. Yes, Snell against Pepio, Ryan Pepio for the Dodgers. Pepio 2-0, 21 innings pitched, 9 hits just in those 21 innings, 17 Ks. Snell 13-9, 2.52, 161 innings pitched, 110 hits, 209 Ks. All these numbers make him a Cy Young candidate for sure. Mookie Betts, 39 home runs on the year. Soto leads with 29 for the Padres. Let's see, career at-bats against these guys. Do we have that? Lineups not available yet. Okay. But if you're going to ride the Padres over, you're going to get a good number here, right? 8.5. Okay, I was hoping for a little lower, like 8. But if you want to do the alt line there, Snell's been an under pitcher, but this is the Dodgers. Plus 290 for over 11.5. All right, so we'll take a reach on that with the Dodgers and the Padres on the over. We'll look for Braves and Phillies over. We'll look for Baltimore Cardinals over. We'll look for Pittsburgh and Nationals with the 2 bad pitchers. We'll look for that game to go over as well on a sneaky little sneak attack play. All right, so 4 overs for you tonight. That'll be the play. Pittsburgh, Washington, St. Louis, and Baltimore, Atlanta, and Philadelphia, and then also Dodgers and Padres. All right, I need to try to go get a workout in. I need it. Ugh, long day of work. Got in just in time to the studio to do the show. Again, the NFL teams. Let's see if I can name them. Let's watch out for these teams in September. We could get runs out of all of them. So Miami, Dallas, San Fran, Green Bay, Detroit, Jacksonville. All right, remember the list. All right, and 4 overs tonight. Baltimore, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Dodgers. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern.